Hey, I'm Reagan and this is John with EcoZapp, and today we are here at Urban Table where you guys are installing some top of the line air purification products that really are a game changer in the fight against COVID.
That's right. We're really excited for this opportunity to work with Chef Tay. You know, he has allowed us to partner with him in creating a better environment for the clients and for the employees. It is something that has been proven against COVID-19, and really what we're looking to do is just bring peace of mind so that people want to come back out and enjoy the great food and you know, places that we can join together in Bryan College Station.
Absolutely. Well, I am so excited to learn about how this works and the difference that it can make in our world today. And so let's go check it out.
All right, let's do it. We're out here today installing some Global Plasma Solution FC48. They're a Needlepoint Bipolar Ionization Air Purification System that we install individually in every air handler on the roof today. What these do is they're going to help fight viruses, mold, bacteria, dander, volatile organic compounds, any of the things that create smells or are pathogens in the environment, in the air environment. That's what we're working on dealing with today. So Travis here, what he's doing right now is he's got what they call the FC48. The reason it's called an FC48 is a 4800 CFM unit. That means that it can be up to a 12-ton for an air handler or air conditioning unit. That's a little larger than what you would have, say, at a home, but that's actually pretty average size on a commercial unit. So what he has right now is the unit itself. It's called Needlepoint Bipolar Ionization. What you'll notice is there's two kind of electrodes that stick up, and it's self-cleaning. This little kind of a windshield wiper-like effect every 3 days will rotate back and forth and clean the tips that you see here on the actual unit. They come with extremely strong rare earth magnets, so you can mount it pretty much anywhere in the cabinet. And what we're going to do is once this is mounted or placed, then we wire it in. And the great thing about this unit is it can be wired from a 24 volt all the way up to a 240 volt system, and it's all dependent upon the type of unit you have and what control mechanisms you have.
I just finished the installation of the GPS air purification system. I checked the unit and the unit is powered up. I'm getting 240 out of it, and so I'm turning on the unit now. This right here is a self-cleaner. It cleans itself every 3 days. We call them like little windshield wipers for the negative and positive ions.
Okay, John, so we know a little bit about how this system works, but let's just dive even deeper. So tell us about what role do ions play in air quality?
So ions are like the world or the Earth's natural disinfectant for the air. Ions are just positively and negatively charged. They attract their opposite, kind of like two magnets, you know, a positive and negative gets attracted to each other. So there's negatively charged particulates in the air, pathogens, and then there's positively charged particulates and pathogens in the air. And so by releasing ions, and nature does this through waterfalls, going near the ocean when the waves are crashing. You also have that in right after an electrical lightning storm, when a storm rolls through. That's nature's way of really producing the same thing that we're doing right here, kind of superficially.
Got it. So actually, John and I were talking earlier, and you were telling me how a common thought is that air quality is better inside. You know, there's pollen and pollution outside, and that, you know, your AC is somehow going to produce a better quality air. But that is not the case.
You're right. Yeah, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately for us, again, the Earth creates, Mother Nature creates its own environment that constantly is cleaning itself. But unfortunate for us, as much as we like to be inside, especially on hotter or colder days, the inside of our homes and our buildings have many different products that have created pollution, such as we call those volatile organic compounds. Those things can be from the adhesives, paint, any of your unnatural products, even down to the backing of your carpet. If you've ever noticed when you order something that's foam, whether it be like a mattress or a pillow, and you open it, and that kind of smell that you get.
That chemical smell.
Exactly. Or, and I think they've kind of trended away from it, but like even a shower curtain.
Right.
If you've ever opened a shower curtain, that's one of the kind of the highest concentrated factors in a VOC type environment. So, and those are, even though when you first open it, you feel like, oh, it's all gone after a few days, it's actually slowly releasing that over time as well. So they make products that have low VOCs, but this is just another way for us to kind of add a layer of protection or even clean that environment even more. So in reality, the EPA estimates that our indoor air quality can be up to 5 times worse than outdoor air, and in some situations up to 100 times worse.
I would have never thought. That's crazy. So let's talk about the reason that we're here for the most part is because of the pandemic and the worry that people have had and the hesitation that they have to going to public places. This is kind of bridging the gap between staying at home, ordering in, and being able to go out to Urban Table, have a good meal, go out and be, part of society again. Can you tell us a little bit about how this is going to impact, public places and the way that we kind of come back to normal life?
Sure. So we all know that we went through a period where, for the most part nationwide, we kind of went through a lockdown period.
Right.
And certain areas that were hot spots, one of which is still in the news, is New York. And what we're finding is that areas that are considered hot spots that are still under lockdown, what they're looking for is ways that they can mitigate those problems and really find a way to reopen safely for consumers. Now, granted, social distancing is definitely something that needs to be in play, but when you have a technology or a product such as the GPS, which is Global Plasma Solution, so plasma is just another description for the ion producing piece of material that we have here, what happens is that, like, let's just use as an example a sneeze. It's been clinically proven that within 3 feet of the sneeze happening, that aerosol, that's something to speak to, is the aerosols tend to be, from what we know right now, to be the main method of spread in COVID. In the beginning, I think we all wore gloves, we all wore other PPE, and we were worried about what we were touching. But they ended up finding out that surface-to-surface contamination was nowhere near the level of spread that aerosols and just people speaking, sneezing, and whatnot happened. So a sneeze, usually, it can spread 15 or 20 feet. Whereas with this product and in a controlled environment like interior, it's actually proven to reduce 99.5, I believe, and again, I'll have to double check on the numbers exactly, but it's way high in the 90 percentile mitigation and kind of killing of those aerosol spreads that you're seeing there and the germs that are included in that.
Wow. I mean, if anything, this is just a big confidence booster towards, the possibility of life returning to somewhat, or life returning to a place where it looks a little bit more like it did before the pandemic.
Absolutely.
Struck. So let's take a look at this. We have it in the box right here.
Yep.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us just a little bit about what we're looking at?
Okay. This is called the GPS FC48 AC. And what it does is it has the ability to be wired into just about any system that's out there, except for, really a 3-phase system. You have to know where to connect it to, but it can still be used in it. Now we're just talking electrical technical terms. Most homes have a 120 or 240 volt system, so that won't be even a concern. When you're dealing with commercial systems like these, in this situation that we have up here, these are all single phase systems, but they can be used in 3-phase. You just don't want to wire them in properly, so you want to have somebody professional install them.
Gotcha.
This is a self-cleaning unit. What you have is a little bar, and you can see it here as well. The little bar sweeps back and forth every 3 days, cleaning the tips of it's basically a carbon fiber ion emitting tip, okay? And so what I can do is, let's see, get it open here. I already kind of halfway had it open. What we have here is basically the wiring where you have your basic power wire or your hot. you have your negative or you know, your grounding, and then you have your common. Now what we also have in the purple wires, what you have here is this is a communication system to where if you want to know whether this is functioning properly or not, they make systems that these can be connected to. But typically, and in most installations, what you'll do is you'll bundle them out of the way, you'll cap them off, and you'll just make sure that they're not interfering. Once you have decided the placement, as you can see here, we placed it right next to the blower. The blower, what it does is, you'll notice we have kind of two sets of what we call return and supply plenums. Return air, which is the air that comes from inside the building, comes up through, it gets pulled by the blower motor because this is sealed, gets pulled through, there's a thing called a coil in the back.
Okay.
What the coil does is the coil is where the heat removal happens. We don't actually put cold in air. We won't go too deep into HVAC today, but we don't put cold in air, we take heat out of air, similar to the way a radiator in your car does.
That makes sense.
It doesn't put cold in your engine, it takes the heat out of the engine.
Right, okay.
So we take the hot air, we always work with hot air. We either bring it in and we remove the heat, or we bring it in and we add heat to it. And then what happens is the air is pulled through the coil, so this blower motor is blowing air downward into this plenum here, and then it forces it back into the building through this ductwork system here. So by placing the ion producing component right here, it'll pull the air through and the ions into this unit here and force it down into the building.
Got it.
So basically we place it, these are rare earth magnets, they're very strong. What you don't want to do is remove the plastic from in between and just let them clap together, because they will break.
Wow.
That's how strong they are, so that's why they put the plastic in there. But you can see, I mean, it's not moving anywhere once they're on there. You just place the unit in the system on the blower housing, or you can even put it down here on the plenum, anywhere that it can get a magnetic kind of attachment. You want to place it with your wiring being as close as you can to your control mechanisms, and then you simply run it through the grommet that's usually provided in the system. You can also create one, and then you find your location over here off of the transformer, and as you can see, this is where Travis has done his connections earlier.
Gotcha.
So this one's actually functioning right now. Again, if you want to see a demonstration of how it cleans, all you do is you can hit the little button here, and you'll see that it sweeps across like a windshield wiper. It's just simply wiping those carbon fiber tips, because keep in mind, these are positively and negatively charged tips, the carbon fiber tips, and so material, like magnetically charged material, will find itself gravitating to those, so every 3 days it'll clean them.
Wow. So this is great for residential and commercial, which is awesome.
They have different models. This is just the most commercial grade model that we have. One, because it is self-cleaning. Two, because it's the highest producing model. It goes up to a 12-ton unit, but you can use more than one unit, more than one treatment air purification system per air handler as needed. So if you have a really large system, they make different models that we can use, or we can stack them. We also have expandable models. They call that the iRib. So we have all kinds of different product models that we can use.
And how long could one expect this to last?
Theoretically, because of the self-cleaning, I mean, the warranty is, I believe, 7 years on these, but the life expectancy really has to do with how well you keep them clean. So, 7 to 10 years, I think, is a reasonable expectation. Anything longer than that, is a bonus.
It's kind of just like anything else, I guess.
That's right.
Okay. How do we know that this thing can protect us from corona? Has there been testing, or what does that look like?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, let me describe that this product was not originally designed just for commercial and residential applications. This was a government and aeronautics and space travel basically designed system. So they're in places like government, military submarines.
Oh, cool.
They're the first one that's, in fact, the only one that's approved as far as the product line. It's the only one that's approved to be in airplanes. It's the only one that's approved to be in many applications that a lot of other things that are advertised are not approved to be in. But to specifically answer your question, this was not designed for COVID. This has been around for, I want to say, since 2007, and really heavy in application format since 2010. However, as we may or may not be aware, COVID in general has been around prior to 2019 and 2020.
Right.
This is just COVID-19. So you're right. How do we know? Well, GPS was smart enough and saw kind of the light at the end of the tunnel that, hey, we better get ahead of the curve. So way back in, I want to say February or March, they submitted for testing right away. And they're the first product that you can actually get that has been tested to reduce, and the word eliminate is a little bit
Right.
tough to use, but it's at a high 99 percentile reduction in a controlled environment, meaning they set up a cubicle, they put one of the products in there, they introduced the aerosols of the COVID-19, and then they looked at the reduction in that space over 30 minutes, and it was like
Wow,
99%
that fast.
reduction. That's correct.
Wow. I feel like this should be everywhere. I mean, not just restaurants, but you mentioned school buses earlier. I mean, when you
Correct.
said that, it was just a bell ringer in my head. I mean,
Sure.
of course we need it in school buses. Nursing homes, have you installed, where are some other places where you guys have installed these?
Well, we're really pursuing quite a few different avenues, especially here locally and nationally. So far, we've talked to people in the nursing home environment because of their, of course, high risk. The nice thing when you think about children, they may not be as susceptible to the negative aspects of COVID, but they're the carriers, they're the
Right.
vectors, or the agents, for lack of a better term. And so, of course, school buses and school districts we're working with a couple school districts right now in proposals. We've also done sheriff's departments. One, I believe, was either in Tennessee or Kentucky, but we're constantly looking at hotels, conference centers, houses of worship, any place people gather.
Right.
Preschools to private schools, gyms, and even, one of the first things that was really, and I kind of get it, there's some therapeutic to it as well, but when you think of spas and hairstylists and, any of those type of personal care type facilities, people are within that close proximity. And let's not forget health,
Of course.
like dentist offices, anything that has to do with, again, being in that where it's required almost to be in a close proximity of somebody. That's where you're really going to want to make sure that you have the highest level of protection that you can get, and that's what Global Plasma Solutions tries to provide.
Okay, so we just finished up that installation at Urban Table, and we are now at another one of Chef Tay's restaurants, Solt.
That's right. So Travis is on the roof right now. He's getting some of the preparation work done, but we're really excited because this is where it all started. We were here, my wife and I, enjoying some dinner, and Chef Tay was here. We started noticing, just kind of how the place looked and the new feel from the previous restaurant, and we just asked him what was he doing to ensure that people felt comfortable to come out and experience and enjoy the new restaurant. And he said, he'd done the things that most other places that we've heard about do. They've spaced out the tables, they've kind of designed the dining room in a way that people are gonna feel like they have enough, space around them. They've adopted some of the cleaning and sanitary principles that we all know about. But when I presented him with the idea of how do we, really provide a holistic environment, one that realistically he had never heard of before, which was the Needlepoint Bipolar Ionization that Global Plasma Solutions has, and he was just excited. I sent him a few articles, showed him how in other areas like New York, Denver, San Francisco, other restaurants are really taking advantages, and other businesses too, and he was just, he ran it by his partnership group, and they were all on board to get this going right away. So here we are.
Yeah, well, I really think that the system or these products, it's really treating more of, it's not just treating the symptoms. It's really going back and treating more of the actual issue. And I'm really excited to see how this can spread throughout town, and also just, it sounds like across the nation.
It's going to be great. One of the analogies I've heard most recently was that it's very similar. You can skim your pool or you can take the leaves out of your pool, but really it's more like putting chlorine in the pool. It's treating the whole pool approach. Well, we're just doing that to the air, and yet we're doing it in a natural way. That's something that occurs naturally in the environment. very similar, and I think I said this before when we were at Urban Table, but just like being next to a waterfall,
Right.
next to the ocean, or right after a thunderstorm. You know, the air we're feeling today is kind of reminiscent of something like that.
Yeah. All right, let's go take a look.
Sounds great, let's do it.
Okay, so we were upstairs here on the roof at Solt. Travis is behind us installing these really cool air purification products, which I'm really interested to hear about. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about it, John?
That's great. You know, we're excited to be here. We're excited to be working with Chef Tay. Like you said, Travis is installing a unit right now. Basically, they're an ionized air particle producer. All ionized really means is positively and negatively charged, very similar to a magnet.
Okay.
It basically attracts, as you know, when we try and play with magnets as kids, you know, so one side kind of repels, but the other side attracts.
Right.
What this is going to do is it's going to attract each positive and negatively charged particle. It's going to attract the bad things that float around in the air, things that make us sick, things that, you know, make us sneeze, things that, you know, just kind of bother us that we may not see. But that's what this is going to do, is it's just going to put out little bubble particles throughout the air. It floats inside the room. In fact, they're all around us right now. We just don't see them or smell them, but that's what makes the air clean and better for us to breathe.
Gotcha. We were talking when we were downstairs about how these guys could be game changers in the way that we approach coming back into society amidst the whole COVID-19 situation. So what is it that these products are doing to help keep us safe and add that level of protection that we haven't had before?
Well, you know, the good thing about when you have kind of something that is natural doing the job that nature does, but synthetically produced, that's the beauty of what we're dealing with here. And so we're not introducing aerosol sprays that have pollutants in them, or, you know, contaminants, or things that are, you know, you wouldn't want to spray them in your mouth, but we spray them in the air.
Right, that's a good point. I actually hadn't thought about it that way.
So this is something that you won't smell. It's colorless, it's odorless, but what you will do is you'll notice an absence of smell. Whereas, you know, and I've had some of our clients tell us, you know, they have those plug in the wall like Scentsy warmers, or they have, you know, some of the other Glade type things.
Right, Febreze.
And then we go and do this, and within a day or two, they're saying, you know, maybe they didn't quite understand the results. They're like, I can't smell my air freshener anymore. I can't smell the, you know, the floral or the citrus or the pine scent. And we said, right, because it's doing its job.
Right, that's actually a great indicator.
Yeah, it's doing its job. So the other thing we've heard, and we've been able to notice ourselves, is that, you know, some of the smells, now I don't know about you, but I love the smell of bacon. A lot of people do.
Who doesn't?
Right? And it fills the house, but you know, sometimes 2, 3, 4 hours later, that's not the best smell. Or maybe fish, or cigar odors, or cigarette smoke, or even places like in the areas in the West where they're having these huge wildfires. This is something that they can really use to improve the quality of the air inside the home. Because as we stated earlier when we were over at Urban Table, oftentimes the air inside of a building can be 3 to 5 times and up to 100 times worse for our, you know, health than outside air.
Right, I would have never expected to hear that.
Yeah, so we just want to make it as good as we possibly can. That's what Global Plasma Solutions is doing. That's what Chef Tay and his team are wanting to do for the clients that come here to Solt, Urban Table, and hopefully in the future some of his other restaurants as well.
Well, if anything, if Chef Tay's always been a trendsetter, I feel like, so I would not be surprised when we started seeing these guys installed on more establishments around town.
And that's our goal. You know, our goal is to help not only the people that come to his restaurants, but he's partnered with us and agreed to let us kind of promote that in a way that's going to be beneficial to all of us here locally and hopefully even nationally.
Right.
To where we can show that, hey, it's easy to install. You do have to have a professional install them, but they're easy to install. They're not obtrusive, and they don't do anything negative. There's no drawback. It doesn't cost you more money to run them. It doesn't, you know, in fact, if you have an area where you're having to have fresh air return, you can cut that down dramatically by installing one of these, because this is actually cleaning the air as it goes.
Right, that makes sense.
So you don't have to actually, it in a sense can lower your energy costs.
Well, you know, actually that was going to be one of my questions, so that's really surprising to hear. Well, I guess, you know, if you wanted to, if trying out some of Chef Tay's amazing food wasn't enough, you could come to Urban Table or Solt and also try out the air quality, because I'm sure you'll be able to see a difference.
Well, I can definitely speak to the food quality, because the night that we talked to Mr. Tay, you know, we both had fish and it was delicious, and
Yeah.
I think this will just make it even that much better to have fresh air around us.
Yeah, and just the confidence in knowing that you have that extra level of protection is going to
Absolutely.
be fantastic.
Can't wait to come back and try it out.
Absolutely. Okay, John, thank you so much for letting me come out here and bombard you with all these questions. And thank you for just educating me, as well as all these other guys watching, about how, you know, innovative and the difference that these things can make in just our day-to-day lives moving forward. So I know I'm probably going to think of some questions later on. If you guys have any questions, give EcoZapp a call. These guys will be happy to talk to you and answer anything that might pop into your brain later on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Reagan. Appreciate it.